My name is Mansour Dalaan. I'm working with STC Groups, handling the CEO of CCC, which is a customer experience arm and operational engagement arm for the STC Groups, where we are serving the STC Group, all the groups and all the companies belong to the groups. And we are serving also the non-STC business like NWC, Ministry of Housing, Saudi Customs, uh, Ministry of Mumra, all these some governments. We have right now about 5,000 employees working with us, and we are moving ahead to a transformation, a huge transformations journey, starting from the beginning, mid of 2019, moving from legacy contact centers to a digital innovations, customer experience arms, introducing digital engagement platform with omni-channels to the community and to the Saudi citizen and Saudi nations. Our goal and objectives is to enhance the customer experience in Saudi market and all GCC. We have international player joint ventures with STC, so we are being backboned by big organizations from STC as a local brand and Startic as international customer experience brand. So this is just an introduction. What I would like to the session and the panel discussion today, I would like to link that one with the nation and GCC country, taking Saudi Arabia as an example of, as we know that even our Saudi Arabia is in a transformation stage starting from 2017 until 2020, moving to 2030 as transformations for the government to be agile, non-oil dependence government, have so many objectives for the nations and for the GCC and for the worldwide, trying to enhance the quality of life, empowering female, empowering youth. There is a lot of initiative, and I think everybody knows about what's going on that. And this is not only in Saudi. I think all GCC country and Middle East is moving to that directions. My suggestion here is that how can we as a company, as a business leader, work together with the government sector and the private sector to enhance the industry of service industry, trying to fulfill the objectives of our vision 2030 for the objective that they are looking for from the industry point of view, from moving from oil dependent country to diversity of income and diversity of business. So this is where I need the talk to be there. And I'm a strong believer that the quick win for this journey is the service industry on all vertical of business, which is either healthcare or tourism or telecoms or finance or whatever that one. Our nation, Saudi and GCC, and maybe the Middle East, is by behavior they are a consumer people. We are not a manufacturing product nation. We are a consumer and service industry nation, which is matched with this one. We as a nation, we have 50 or 60% of our nation is a youth under 25. We have very good infrastructures, platforms on all GCC, very stable political systems moving forward. All these is pluses that help to grow the service industry and to enhance the service industry. One more thing is that what I believe is that service industry is the quick win bridge for us to fulfill the objective of Vision 2030 by empowering female, by enhancing the quality of life, by decreasing the unemployment rate, by creating diversity and a new income to our nations. So if you take example, for example, as a Dubai, as one example, and usually when we travel, always we say to ourselves, we travel for the weather. But when you go in the summer, you travel to Dubai, even the weather is not that good. Okay, so we said, okay, we travel for countryside, and then you find yourself you travel to Dubai, even there is no big attractive countryside for the Middle East on that one. So why there is a lot of traffic and a lot of people traveling here and there? Because service industry is trying to grab the people and attract the people. I'm just giving example. If you go back before COVID-19 to the Riyadh festivals tourism, you will find a lot of people coming from all around the world trying to become the kingdom and enjoy the activity that's happening in there, which there there is no, for example, different weather in that time, which is very hot weather in summer, but the people is coming because they enjoying the service and the service industry and the customer experience that we are trying to make. So bottom line, this is where I think that I believe, and I will open the chat, the topic for everyone to participate in that matters, and then we will come back to another session of how can we push that service industry in our region and our kingdoms. So I will leave the floor right now for everyone who is trying to participate or add questions or anything related that. Okay, so please join.
Yeah, I'm going to just give that because I've got a few questions on my side. I know Ahmad probably will as well, but I'd love. Come on, guys. Let's see if we can get a couple of questions. Or I will get everything started. You see, from my perspective, Mansour, one of the most interesting things is that as I look at various countries around the world, and I've been in a very fortunate position in that I've been able to go around and worked in probably 40 different countries. Customer experience agenda has accelerated in the GCC, and Saudi, it really is absolute big business right now, quicker than almost any other area of the world. The origins are important because it actually reflects the values of the people who are running and ruling. What are your observations about what has created this drive? Because it's really it's been discussed for a long time, but now, as part of a new world economy, it's really accelerating. I'd like to hear your observations on that.
Okay, if I understand your question is that one, that why you feel these days there is a lot of importance, attention to customer experience in Saudi market and GCC market. And I think I agree with you. If I show you a report from Fort and Sullivan regarding a question that has been introduced to many Saudi peoples on the hill, on all verticals, uh, 99% of them, they believe that customer experience is very important. If you do this research 10 years back, you will not find this answer, for example, or maybe people tell you, what's customer experience? What is it? Okay. So there is a big change. There is a big move on our country and the GCC, I think, in being attention to the customer experience and how the customer experience will be the game changer for the service industry in the futures. One more thing, why this is happening, I think change when it comes from the top, it's come very high speed and very aggressive speed and help a lot. So Vision 23 is actually, you can name it, it's a customer experience driven vision. It's a customer experience from delivering the service to the nations and the residents, delivering the services from Saudi to the other nations as producing oil industry and other industry, giving customer experience to the quality of life, quality of people, right of people, right of female, right of youth, or everything. So when you find that customer experience has been driven and owned by big officials and by Crown Prince himself, Mohammed bin Salman, you understand exactly why this change in the kingdoms. He came with the idea of business. He came with the idea of customer experience. He came with the idea of movement, agility, youth, all these type of things. So it make it easy for everyone below to increase and fast on these directions. Now, to be honest with you, I can tell you, company governance, government governors and government offices is much agile, is much changeable, is much move to customer experience than some of the private business. So this is, everybody can notice it, everybody that can feel it, and this is why the big change that's happening in our country, because it's led by a philosophy of our governments and our officials and all the level cascaded to the bottom line.
Guys, can we have some comments in the chat as we're going? That would be really useful as well. If you don't want to necessarily add any, specifically, although we'd love to hear from people, put some things in the chat, put some points in the chat. Before I jump in with another question, is anybody on the floor would like to make a comment?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Mansour and Charles. It's really exciting to see how the government in Saudi Arabia and the private sector actually is moving and interesting in customer experience. We are in October, so I saw a lot of governmental entities celebrating CX Day beginning of this month. So yes, the movement and interest customer experience, citizen experience is already in Saudi, it's booming and connected to the Vision 2020, 2030. And it's part of the moving to the good life being guidance by the Crown Prince herself. The question here open for all of us, what's the challenges nowadays within governmental entities, or the help needed by the governmental entities to make this moving better and better? It's an open discussion for everybody here who can comment. We have Sulaiman here, so I'll ask him direct a question because he's part of governmental and he's part of the transformation side. Mr. Sulaiman, are you with us? It's okay.
السلام عليكم محمد أحمد everybody. تكلم بالعربي طبعا of course أحمد صح؟
Is there any non-Arabic speaker in this room? I think there is somebody.
Good. It's a challenge by itself to move the very vast than the private sector in the government these days, and that by itself is a big challenge. Expectations are very high now, and that is one of the customer experience issue that we are facing everywhere today, especially in government services, because people now expecting you to deliver things on an app. And this is by itself, it's a challenge for those people who are responsible to carry transformations or carry changes in customer experience. And as you all know, customer experience is all about fixing the inside. So you can really deliver the promise that your organization or your entity is trying to deliver out there. So it's a challenge, Ahmed, like any other challenge, but it's a very, very demanding challenge. Because there is a breakthroughs in government agency today by application digital transformation that really moved very fast in some agencies, and it is still very slow in some agencies. In general, this is the challenge that those people are facing. So again, it's a good opportunity for people like us who worked in the private sector for a while, where we bring our expertise from a competitive markets to this type of market. So it's an opportunity for all of us out there to perform better And it's basically, it's for the best. It's a good direction. There is a good direction set by 2030. There's no doubt about it. But it's a very challenging budgeting challenges, expectation challenges, which I see it far, and of course, professional challenges, because there are a lot of people who still, they don't really understand the customer experience. And it's not about you and I or a bunch of people here in this conference who believe in customer experience. It's about all the crowd out there who can deliver employee customer experience, who are going to be happy so they can deliver it to their customers. It's a long way to go, Ahmed. So thank you for putting me in the spot.
Same to Mansour, because Mansour, you are working with a lot of governmental entities as CCC, and definitely you are facing, or your customer facing some challenges. So what do you believe the challenges right now?
So Ahmed, I think, see, first of all, I would like also to thank Suleiman for his participations, and he's one of the leaders in the community on digital transformations and in the private sector. So I would like to thank him on behalf of all of you for his joining. But what's the challenge? Yeah, there is a change in the industry. There is importance has been reached to the decision maker about the importance of customer experience. Okay, if you go back 5 years, Ahmed, or 6 years, and you are with us on the field, that you will find people does not appreciate what we are talking about 5 years back or 6 years back. Okay, and for example, if you take the BPO industry, for example, which is business processing outsourcing, or the contact center industry, people does not appreciate that services 10 years back. Okay, now if you go 10 years back, you may find only one government or two governments who has a contact center open for their citizens or residents to communicate with them. Okay, but if you come right now to any government agency, you will find that there is a contact center, there is an app, there is a web, there is all these channels that has been open to the customers, which has not been there before 6 years or 7 years back, to be honest with you. Not more than that, you will find that there's some attention to that one. What is the challenge? Yeah, we are on the beginnings, to be honest with you, phase, and there is a lot of challenge on the business rules or the government procedures sometimes, or that to have to that one. For example, we don't have up to now we don't have an organization, independent organization on customer experience that take care of all rules, legislatives, services, all these type of things related to the customer experience itself, to how can we deliver the service in a very acceptable manner that accepted by best practice. So this type of organization, either government or independent organization, that need to be built in order to help the government official to change their rules and their processes. For example, if you remember before, people does not pay for the customer experience before. They pay only for something that they see it practically, the product. But right now, and always they go for example, cheap services, list price services, okay? Which is, there is a competition in burning the price between the private sectors, not paying attention to customer experience. And we were in this dilemma business for about the last maybe 10 years back. But right now, people is changing. I am facing that people, they are giving me a war, they are giving me a product or a project, awarding me a contract, even though my price is more than the others competitor, for example, which that does not happen before. What is the challenge right now? I think there is a lot of rules and logistic, for example, need to be changed in order to help and enhance the customer experience. One thing that has been also announced lately, which is part-time jobs from the Ministry of Labor, to be considered as one of the things that private business and government can use it's a good move, but still, if you go back to the condition that has been made for this procedure or policy need to be fixed a little bit in order to enhance that move, because if the private sector does not feel that there is a benefit for them in that direction, they will not. My question, the challenge is right now, how can we help the private and government sector in order to reduce the cost of BPO and service industry so they can put some pressures and effort in the customer experience side? I, Ahmed, did I answer the questions or still you have some things to say?
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Any comments from the other here? Because I think we have a lot of governmental representative here in this room. Okay, Charles, the mic is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. We come back coming to talk about this. I mean, there's some threads within this. One of this is how we become more agile. Now, it's funny, if you've gone back, say, 2 or 3 years, we'd be talking about what age are we in? We talk, with the information age. Nobody would question it. And now you're seeing some more of the advanced thought leaders saying we're actually coming into this thing called the customer age. And some governments were actually agreeing and starting to move that way. And actually, we're beginning to move into another. And it's going to be, it's the age of agility and innovation. And service companies are absolutely going to have an opportunity for quick wins. They always have had. But the problem is, how do you adapt to a world we cannot predict? We've seen more uncertainty this last 8-9 months than we've probably ever seen in our business lives. So we've actually, so a big chunk of this is going to come down to agility, and a big chunk of that comes back down to, and I hate to be a bit boring about this, it's about process as well. Because what tends to make organizations flexible and agile is being able to harness process. And what makes our organizations slow, and there's a lot of government organizations, I've had the opportunity and the pleasure to work with government organizations all over the world. And generally, I see a lot of them very inert, full of process, full of procedure. And in many cases, there's very, very good reason why. But actually, if we're going to start to get more agile, and we need to get to more agile to be able to meet the demands and the outcomes that our customers, the public, is looking for, then perhaps we need to learn some of the stories about what happens in private industry if you get too inert. See, in private industry, it's been well said, in the next 7 or 8 years, 50% of the FTSE 100 and probably almost 40% of the S&P 500 will be gone. That's what happens when you lose the ability to change. If the world outside changes more quickly than your ability to change inside, you will ultimately fail. Now, government organizations don't ultimately fail, but they ultimately become more process heavy, more inert, more bureaucratic, and actually the outcomes they create become more substandard. So I would like to get your comments of this, Mansour, and within the panel. Actually, is the real focus, as much as focusing on customer, as much as focusing on government outcome, as much as all the initiatives, have we got to harness our internal processes?
Okay, Charles, thank you for this one. I think it's a very important point that has been raised. And I think as long as you talk about customer experience and you talk about digital transformations, you have no choice not to talk about agilities and internal processes. And agility is the heart of the big concepts of customer experience and digital transformation. And I think by the time that we are facing for the last maybe 8 months of the pandemic, is that really it's a very test of agility of organizations, how to maneuver and how to adapt themselves to the change based on the change outside. So agility is essential, and it's a basic, and it's an essential for any digital transformations. And at the end of the day, it is affected the customer experience. Definitely, if you are not working as an agile in not only your processes, if you're agile in your processes, agile in your people's organization, agile in your technology, you will not be able to implement the digital transformation in your organization. And at the end of the day, you will fail in delivering the customer experience that your customer is expecting or looking for. I think by COVID-19 also is a very big lessons. I think which is change a lot of things and a lot of processes that people used to have it for a decades. And now it's a time when we say that, for example, if you take, for example, working from home was was a debate before COVID-19, or people does not believe in it, or people they think maybe if anybody is working from home, he is not that he is does not have this disciplines to work or something like that. Now it's vice versa. Now sometimes you need something very strong to shock you out in order to force you to think about your processes and force you to that one. Now, it's not necessary to have, for example, a big an office. It's not necessary right now, from agility perspective point of view, to own things. Because if you own things, you will let your client pay based on your ownership costs. While if you use things and you will be trying to bring a cost value for your clients, because your cost of using is not the same as your cost of ownerships. So I will give you example of this one. If you talk about, for example, a cloud solution, a cloud solution is a matter of you pay by your use, not by your ownerships. As long as you do this, okay, you will be concentrate more in your business, and you will be able to deliver experience related to the cost, experience or value related to the cost, value related to experience onto the platform. That will make you will be able to offer a good price, will be able to offer a good experience, will be able to offer an high-end agility that you change based on the change of the business. Because if you own things, sometimes the change become very fast, while in the ownership business model, it will take time for you to change, which affect your agility to adapt with the external outside. While if you use and go for cloud, for example, it give you the freedom of agility from your platform point of view. Now, let's talk about the people right now. Okay, now I was in discussion with someone 3 days back, and I was telling him he's an expert on the cloud. And I said to him, do you think how the cloud will be expanded, to what a limit? Is that cloud will be expanded, for example, to make our people an expert as in a cloud use based, to make our organization assets on the company and on the organization work in a cloud concept? For example, if you move to a telecom operator where I'm working at, the question is that one, does we need right from now to own a network in order to provide the telecom services? Okay, if I own a network and I want own switches and infrastructure or that one, can I use the cloud concepts to reuse that infrastructures for other companies or other business oriented and so on? If I have, do I need to own a people? Do I need to own a CEO and CFO and, or I own a use of them? And people starting to use the freelancer right now and making per hour rate, and not necessary to be linked to your geography and other things. So to what extent that cloud-based concept will go to the affect all the essential of the organization pillars more than the technology itself to other things? Definitely people is talking right now, and if you saw in the conference, about transportations. Do we need to own a car or and pay this amount of these cars, and my utilization of that car is not even 20% of the cost of that car? So right now people is moving, okay, about driverless car, about Uber it. So concept of Uber it, concept of Google it, concept of cloud it, all these concepts, how much it will go from the technology side to affect all our life of business. That's what people is thinking, that do I need to own a house? Or do I need to open my house, open my parking, open my, and so on. So this is the agility where the people, they may go to it and people starting thinking about it, but how soon will we go for that one? This is it. The moment that you go for that opening mechanism, co-guilt mechanisms, cloud mechanisms, that will give you all these things, give you agility and give you transformation and give you customer experience at the end of the day.
You see, we can really push this a little bit, quite a long way, because it's almost like we're saying almost everything out there is for rent. And in reality, we have this thing about, you know, we can own a house and you only have to put down 5%. Actually, 95% of the house is actually owned by somebody else. It's a nice way of putting it, but we actually are renting our house. It just doesn't appear that way. Hire purchase agreements, leases, we rent our cars. We go, you get celebrities, oh, I've got a private jet. No, they're not. They rent their private jets in the main. Everything out there is for rent. We move to the cloud. So ultimately, what do we actually need to own? Because actually we don't have to own infrastructure anymore. We can rent it. There's plenty of places, where we can rent it is far more securely. We can actually, we can rent up our business processes if we want to. We can give them to other people. So ultimately, every single aspect of what an organization does, and by the way, some companies are doing this, are actually outsourcing everything they do, perhaps with one exception. And that's the customer. Ultimately, you will not want to give control, because that's almost like the crown jewels. But actually, is that going too far? You're not going to get government entities wanting to give everything away or renting everything away, because the level of control is up there for risk. So where is actually that natural tipping point? Because as you said, everything is up there for grabs.
I think, Charles, you are right, but I think you can open everything and give everything except two things: your customers' relations to the customer and your data. For example, if you talk about, for example, any automatic car, for example, Tesla, for example, if you ask Tesla about their algorithms of how the driverless car will be working, they may give you the algorithms. Or you may find it somewhere in any office, any artificial intelligence library there about the algorithm itself. But the difficult that you cannot get is the data that related to that one. So you can freeze everything and Uber everything except your data and your customers' relation management. That one, this is the one that you have to own it, and your business model of thinking, that one. Other than that one, I can say all the assets, all the CapEx, you can share it and you can use it as needed, and you don't need to own it, that one. But the three things, which is your data, your customer relationship and your business model of doing business, these are the three things that you have to own it. And this is the DNA of your organization, that you have to keep it and protect it. The issue is that one is the people working in this three angle. How do you control them? And how you do own them? And how do you protect them from recopying this one to other? This is the issue right now. So are we going, at the end of the day, this may go to doing all things private and everything own things, and you come back to ownership of that funds. So nobody will be, for example, working as a CEO unless he owned the company and work for it. That's another extreme of business that maybe we did not reach for it for the time being. Because as long as you have a CEO and you have a people working with you, one day they can work with another one. And this data and business models and customer relationship management data, then you cannot control it. So this is the future of business. I am not sure where we will end up with, but we are moving so fast that things that take before 10 years, 15 years to happen, Now it will take 3 to 5 years to appear.
How would you accelerate this, Mansour? How would you accelerate this? Because this is not something which is traditionally easy to accelerate. The art of the possible, I still remember, but I don't remember all of the early bits of it. But my grandfather, I mean, he died about 20 years ago, but my grandfather lived to almost 100 years old. When he was born, we could, just after the time we could fly a few hundred meters. By the time he was 60 or 70, we could fly 2.2 billion kilometers from Saturn and back in the space of 50, 60 years. What we used to do in 10 years now takes 6. What we do in 6 years, we can do 3.5. So the art of the possible and what we can achieve is getting further and further away from us. At some stage, there's going to be a revolution in government because there is the opportunity is so immense. It is that move to incredible agility, which actually at the moment doesn't exist in the main. So how do we accelerate that? Because we do need to accelerate that. That's pretty well what you said right from the very, very start.
So see, the accelerating this one is by nature. I can say it as a game between nations, and again, not nations, a game between generations. So people who's grow, my son and your son, okay, he has to work to disrupt the undisrupted, me and you. Otherwise, he cannot navigate. So for example, all this, if you talk about new generation people, they came with they don't want to wait until they become 50 or 60 to have this financial things that one. They cannot. So they have to do some disruption model or some disruption attitude to me and you and the big organization in order to flip it around. Because people in my age, for example, or others company, they have a capex right now and they have asset right now. It's not easy for them to leave that asset away or to go that out of way. But people who don't have this, and he is not going to wait until get that age, he is going to disrupt me and you and other company. Small company, for example, which is startup company, this is the people who will speed up the process and who will disrupt up everything that cannot be disrupted. So this is why they are asking the big company, please disrupt your business before someone come and disrupt you. How the acceleration will be happen? By this mechanism, not more than that.
It's interesting. It's almost like there's 3 types of people: the people who make things happen, the people who watch things happen, and the people who say, what actually happened? Because that's actually what happens when you get disruption. You end up in that 3rd category, and you've got to be moving from 3rd into the 2nd. And the 2nd don't just do nothing, but they are happy with the status quo and a cheaper, better, faster version of where they already are. We need to move very much into the 1st. What about the culture aspects of developing people? Because in the main, the culture of rapid change is not something you see in government. Is there some work from a cultural perspective to get people to be able to not only be embrace change, but wanting to embrace change?
If the question's to me, Charles, or we can leave
well,
it to...
if nobody else jumps in, I'd love other people to jump in. I'd like to get some more comments from the floor. Or if somebody on the floor says, stop, I've got a question, because I don't know what any of you guys are thinking. If you've got something you really want to raise, please put it in the chat. We'll find a way. Or if you're enjoying what you're listening to, we can carry on this debate. So Mansour, perhaps you carry on and please answer, because
I think Suleiman is raising his hand. Suleiman is raising.
Just unmute yourself.
Yes, Mansour, Charles. And I think I would like to add, I completely agree with you, Mansour and Charles. These changes that happened in the pandemic really added a lot of value for us in business to agile some of things that some old books was opened, for the first time, because this was what, you recall, for example, in the utility business. Now we close even shops because you people did good job on call centers and did a good job in the e-branches, because this is basically where the digital really helped a lot. Why we have all these branches? We did not have them through the pandemic. More than 4 months, all these branches was closed. So definitely operating model are changing due to real test that we went through. However, all this enablement, it was something in the plan by digitalization, but it usually will take, as you know, maybe many years. But a pandemic, maybe this is a good part of it, helped us all to move forward on that. But even in the government, because we are talking about government here, government are changing as well, because today the custodian of the government services are moving from the government moving to be a regulator, and moving all these to private sector. So yes, they are responsible for the end of the day for the index of customer experience, let's call it, for the happiness of the nation, for the good citizen index, okay? But definitely the customer will be with many entities of what we call it private sectors. And the regulator will ensure that is happening. So that is a major change that we are going through today. So if you are in a government agency today, you are just thinking, what I'm gonna do now? I'm a regulator, or I'm supposed to be delivering a service. Again, the same dilemma, you have to bring customer experience. What is making this more difficult, the transformation that we need to do in the level of IT, digitalization, people and culture. This is your question, Charles, okay? And moving also what we call it, the financial, the budgeting, to focus where is the pain and the expectation. The same point that I talked to you about it in the beginning. Customer experience about expectations, about what you expect as an end user, as a citizen, for example, in the government arena. What do you expect? Do you expect what? Do you expect a good service? So what is the definition of good service? Is it Abshir service that is the best today in the country? If we do that, then I will make other, utility company or other entity in the government to suffer, because no way we can reach Abshir, because it will take time. So that expectation where we want to go and fix it. Ministry of Justice, for example, doing excellent movement today in a lot of things in areas and justice systems, changing a lot, and digitalization and moving to this agile is helping. I don't want to mention some government and leave the other. My colleague will be best off from me. I know there are a lot of people from different government agencies, and they're really delivering a good, excellent improvement year over year. But if I go back to your question, we need to focus on the people and the process, which is the culture of the people, the organization, moving people to think about customer experience all the way, by implementing the right system, by ensuring this be delivered overnight, by this could be automated, all this type of services that we have to change. Now, a lot of regulation have to be there, a lot of rules, a lot of things. But I think the different subject that you mentioned, Mansour, also, actually it's for you as a CEO, this is maybe it's very challenging, but it's also an opportunity as well. When you start sharing infrastructure, getting things for free, sometimes you're paying for something. It's not easy for you to start many of your projects today if you don't have the right budget. But now you can share it. You can brush here and there and get things done. And this is what you people do in CCC. I see a lot of progress in the last couple of months, because you basically have these capabilities to share the experience, to share the journey, to share the government agency experience. So more challenges and all this opening and whatever, it will open for us more doors. And I hope this address some of those points, but it's a challenging. It's making the expectation is very high from a customer point of view, which is the citizen in this case in government. Thank you.
Thank you, Sulaiman. I think it's a good point, and thank you for the value. Charles, you have for you.
I wanted just to go back and just ask, evolutionary versus revolutionary change. Is revolutionary change really possible, or is it a pipe dream? Within the private sector, absolutely. And it gets forced because in the private sector, opportunists can come in, and they do come in, and they will come in, particularly if you're extremely well financed. And those opportunists will come in from complete left field, and they'll be coming in and disrupting an industry because they come from an industry which already does things differently, and they see that opportunity. I remember going back and not only a few years, and for example, I was talking about big banks in the United States, looking at the way supermarkets operated, being able to turn their business on a dime. In other words, know the cost of absolutely everything. I could see retail banks in the UK recruiting people from the supermarkets because they understood how to harness process so well. So revolutionary change really is going to be possible, particularly if we stop defining ourselves by our core competency and we start defining ourselves by what our customer needs really are, and break some of those traditional boundaries which say, I do X, Y, Z, and the only important thing to me is doing X, Y, Z. And if I don't do X, Y, Z, any opportunities which are slightly outside X, Y, Z, even if I can differ against them or ignore. Now that actually starts to blur the traditional silos or the traditional boundaries a hell of a lot. But it's easy, not easy. I'm being a little bit I'm pushing it too far. It's a lot more possible to have this disruptive revolutionary change. But in government, it could achieve so much if it's done the right way. It really could. And it's almost, we've got a Roundtable, some really capable people around here. You know, is there something we could do to get revolutionary change accelerated? But, and it always has to be a but, in a low risk, mitigated fashion. Comments from the floor would be really appreciated.
Sorry, Charles, but if you can just repeat the question because I did not get it properly.
All right, I'm going to summarize it. I'll summarize it up. Evolutionary versus revolutionary change. In governments, revolutionary change is not very often. Revolutionary change normally is when a government is brought down and it's an enforced brought down. That's not going to be happening in this part of the world. It happens in some parts of the world. It's not going to be happening here. But nevertheless, we've got governments in this part of the world that are more genuinely concerned about people than the majority of other governments around the world. And, you know, and that's really, really clear. So if we're going to go into revolutionary change, which is not about throwing things out, but accelerating change, can we realistically do it? Or is it a pipe dream? Or is it a pipe dream?
So Charles, if you allow me here, if I understand the question is that one, that are you talking about how the government, for example, will be free of social obligations to their peoples in order for creating jobs and other things, or how's that? I think the question is still not clear for me.
Okay. In terms of what government's got to achieve, I mean, government's always going to have social obligations, absolutely. But it's all about pace. Everything is about pace. Difference between evolutionary and revolutionary is pace and our comfort level. That's the only difference. So you go into some sectors, evolutionary is extremely fast. If you go into other sectors, evolutionary is incredibly slow. And what revolutionary means in one sector is completely different to another. We're talking about pace and comfort with that pace. It's about speed. It's coming a little bit back to that agility. And it'd almost be like, how can we get some ideas about where we can practically start?
I think
we need to practically start.
Yeah, Charles, if I talk from where I am living right now, that change and accelerations is happening in very fast in the area that we are living, especially in Saudi Arabia. And as I said for you, what is changing in our kingdom from positive side, these final 5 years or 6 years or 10 years, it's phenomenal. It's something that cannot be happen in other nation in 50 to 100 years. By doing these accelerations of quality of life, pushing people for skills, pushing people to be educated, moving to diversity of business, opening things that has been closed for a long time with no rationale behind it from the business perspective point of view, I can say, our government start to disrupt itself by doing disruptions for the government itself for the last 6 years. So if you notice right now, most of the basic legacy government agency that has been in a very slow motion mode for years, last 50 years, they drive with a full speed that they did not drive with before. That change is as usual, I said, driven by the head of the country going back to all levels, which make it very fast to our culture and organizations. The issue is that if we move in that speed, so what about the people who could not cope with that speed? What about for the companies who is not ready for that speed? What about, for example, if you take, for example, pandemic or the COVID-19 issue, companies who is not agile and adapt to the new change, they still depend on the government as a child depending on his mother to feed him. Will be not continue. Will not continue anymore. If you did not help yourself and adapt yourself and you make yourself ready and you change your processes, you will not find a mother that can feed you in these times, because cannot be done as before. Yeah, you will have some support, you will have some pushing, you will have some extra things, but you need to change because all worldwide is changing. Anybody who does not change, he will not sustain. And that's the issue here.
If you
Yeah,
allow
I
me,
have a comment. Yeah, please go ahead, guys.
yeah. So if you allow me to add on this, I really endorse this, to be honest. And يعني, as someone who's working in Saudi Arabia for a fairly good time, I can see this acceleration and the speed of action that we are at this moment. Especially, it has been driven by the government vision 2020-30. It is there. We can feel it. I had like a couple of experience outside of the kingdom. Frankly speaking, I can see the kingdom now is moving toward like adapting the private sector methodologies. Not anymore, we can call it a governmental, because now we have a vision, we have a strategy, everyone is working toward it. The speed of action that's Mr. Mansour was talking about, it is there. Frankly speaking, both the sectors, the private and the government sectors, they must keep up with this pace, because the transformation that we are living in is phenomenal, and I believe we are heading in the right direction. And definitely with this speed, there will come many challenges will come across. However, our job as a leaders in this service industry, we need to have an eye on it and tackle it one by one to match up with that speed.
Yeah, thanks, Mohammed. Actually, yeah, as a leaders in CX in Saudi Arabia, usually we had notes lately. Usually the private sector is driving the governmental as citizen experience around the world, but we recognize in Saudi, especially in Saudi, the flip actually. So right now, the citizen experience and governmental experience is exceeding and driving a lot of private sectors movement, and it's accelerating in much speed than the private sector in a lot of verticals. The beauty within the citizen experience and governmental customer experience implementation, that it's implementing in a strategy, clear strategy. The government or the crown prince has established ADA, okay, which putting standards for citizen experience around the kingdom, and to make sure that each governmental entity is moving in the minimum. Hello? Yeah.
We're hearing you clearly.
And to make, yeah, guys, sorry. And to make sure that all governmental entities is moving almost on the same expected improvement. They had implemented the strategy for among all different entities driven by ADA. Do you have anybody from ADA within this group at this moment, so he can explain more about the vision of ADA here?
There are people, I know there are some people from ADA who are actually registered for the conference, Ahmed. I don't know whether they're here.
Yeah, as we work closely with the
أداء. Nowadays, the government is putting standards for each different governmental entity, and they are monitoring that in a standard, let's say, voice of customer feedback. So they are measuring all improvement in all different entities level to make sure that they are improving. As you know, it's different entities. So some of them is moving in very high speed and another is moving in a slowly way to make sure that they are improving at the acceptable, let's say, level of improvement by the government itself. They had established ADA and putting a standard for movement in that, which is, we believe that it's an excellent strategy for a country and government to put such monitoring stuff about the CX citizen level within the country itself.
Just think about what would have just been said, and are there any more? Are there, just think about whether you can have some questions perhaps you'd like to put into the chat, or like to comment a little bit about what Ahmad has been talking about. Because one of the things is absolutely true, and one of the things that I have noticed is that the Saudi government in particular, in fact, actually, it's not just the Saudi government in the GCC, but that was the example that was raised earlier, has put a very heavy duty objective a mere 10 years from now. And you get a lot of, what I call traditional governments in North America and Western Europe don't dare to put those objectives because if they're terrified, they don't get anywhere near close to those objectives. There's no chance they'll ever be able to get themselves to be in a position to be back in power. So they don't. They just talk very, very vaguely and blithely about the fantastic world we're going to have tomorrow, without ever being able to say what that fantastic new world really is, even when everything's crumbling around us. Anybody who's been watching the US government and the US government elections and has been watching, people swiping and fighting each other. And, that's certainly not a model for government. Interestingly, there's some very, very heavy duty objectives. And sometimes if governments are brave enough to say, we are going to get there, even if it's not absolutely clear at outset, sometimes it's been so near where, people have said this many times, culture can sometimes eat strategy for breakfast, brunch, and every other meal and snack in the day. That's been said many times. And sometimes you can go into these things without having a clue on how to do it. But governments, like, everything else, we're all based around people. And if people have got the right values and they're working together in the right teams with the right beliefs, as I said before, you can move heaven and earth. And I guess that, this is a little bit of what's come out today, because there's a big chunk about we're going to have the skills, we're going to revolutionize processes, we're going to have people hugely skilled in this thing called customer experience. But boy, oh boy, if you get people who really want to do it, they can. Mansour, do you want to go down? We've gone through, this been quite high level. Bear in mind the time has got available. Would you like to perhaps dig down into some of the challenges that you've observed, perhaps at a more micro level? Or there's some areas or some of the things that you've observed in your own business life? Because we've got a bit of opportunity to move the subject on a little bit. So let's turn into a new chapter. Let's go into something a bit new. Maybe it's innovation, maybe it's a project program. Let's go into something new.
Okay, so first of all, Charles, I think we have an expression in Arabic, and I don't know how to say it in English, but they are saying thank you for challenge, because challenge is the things that lead me to be to win, or converting a challenge to an opportunity and work on it. And this is an example of things. So in the last 8 months during the COVID-19s, it is one of the best year for me in the organizations, from revenue perspective, from people working together, from having one spirit to do and challenge the situation and succeed in that situation and convert that challenge to an opportunity. It's not secret to tell you that this year I made double from the top line and from the EBITDAs. comparing to last year. Even though some of the other company is losing business, we are gaining business. This year, the challenge, make me and my teams take the spirit of a challenge and work together to achieve things that cannot be done before. Getting out from all side talk, from all differences, and work to an objective, one objective to succeed and to win these situations. This challenge, the last 6-7 years, gave me and my team the power and the strength to change many things that we could not even think before about. Do we need to change it or not? About our processes, okay? Our processes, working from home. Do you know, Charles and my dear team, that I reached to almost 95% of my staff, which is 5,000 employees, working from home digitally in 3 weeks that deployed. If you ask me, can you do this one before this, the pandemic or the COVID-19, I will tell you it's impossible to do it. And before that one, I don't have all the tools on that. Now we are in CCC, everything is digital. Interview of candidate is digital. Signing the contract is digital. Training the people and the agents to be available for work is digitals. Monitoring the agents is digitals. Workforce management, quality management, operation management, even sales and everything, all thing is digital. If you come to me right now or to my organization, you will find me that convert to digital era in about 6 months and 7 months. Now, name it, I can tell you, name it. Whatever tools in digital in the market, name it, I have, not I have it, but I have a use for it in one of the organizations or government or private. Talk about RPA, talk about optimization, home agent, chatbot, chat tools, everything. I was dreaming to do that transformations in at least 1.5 years. I did it actually to be in 5 months. Analyticals, big data, change, and even the way of thinking. Now people become very energized to think differently and to think out of the box and to ask a question, why you are doing this one? Can we do it this way? Can we do it this way? What about if we do it this way? That type of thinking was not there, Charles, before 6 months, 7 months. And once we did it and everything is working fine, imagine in Saudi Arabia, I was enforcing a people from Najran to fly to Riyadh, which is about 2 hours or 3 hours, in order for him to sign and take the training, and said, now there is no need for that. He can do it in his house there, sign the contract, then he can take the training there, and then he can connect to the contact center and do the training. The quality will be done remotely. The training will be done remotely, workforce management done remotely, everything done remotely. It's unbelievable for me for the time being. And we gain from that one because we save costs of hiring people in the big city by taking people from rural city or far city, which is can do the job and make it. Now, I am thinking to get out of my building, except for the people who ask for the building. So there's a lot of change that's happening. Or what I'm trying to say in business, that don't scared from anything that let you not to try.
And do you know what? I absolutely buy all of that. But there was an unsaid thing here, which I'd like to delve into. You've got, do you say you've got about 5,000 staff, Mansour? Yes. So you've got a very, very big group. And you know, and what was the time period? Was it under 3 months, you said? You got 95% of your organization.
Only this before the COVID-19, I was 3,000 employees.
Right.
I got 2,000 employees just on the last 6 months.
Okay, so 60% growth and a complete change of way of working and productivity levels that you've never seen previously.
At all. at all.
Let me ask you, and this will be a really good final question because I love to hear this. It is very, very, very difficult to do that. How do you get people to follow you in achieving that? Because that is a revolutionary change in the way of working. And once for 1 day or 2 days, people go, yeah, we could do this. Actually, when it becomes a complete change in the way of working, it doesn't take long before it can easily be said, because I've seen this isn't very much fun anymore. I'm missing people. I don't feel so productive. My stress levels are up. I'm having to work really much harder than ever before. I'm scared. I don't want to do anything other than comply because I need to keep hold of my job. You seem to have got around that. I'd love you to share with the group here how, because this is very rare an achievement.
Yeah. Charles, I actually, even if I can tell you that can be done, we are working in an environment which came from operational environments. And contact center is usually an operational environment and 24/7 environment. So the energy of the team is there anyway, okay? Which is an operational mindset there. The energy of a challenge, the energy or the passion of doing succeed is there in the teams. And I have, alhamdulillah, I have a very good teams that work together side to side in order to achieve all these type of things related. So I give the credit for the team because they are the people who is encouraged to do that one. Okay. And the other thing is that you are in a COVID-19 and you have, when there is no way other than this way, definitely you are going to do it. And this is sometimes when we say challenge is a good plus or blessing from Allah because it forces you to do something that maybe you don't need to do it before. So what is make us succeed in that one? We came from operational mindset. We have a very good, to be honest with you, I have a very good backbone board and company that support me to that direction as STC and Startic, which is a very big known company worldwide. So they are organization driven, not private owned driven. So that is also another angle. The third angle is that one is we are in the business for the last 5-6 years with the team, and we know in and out in it. And that make us ready for that one. One more thing is that this transformation is already there in the pipelines, but we found this a chance to do it because even if you fail in it, nobody will harm you at that fail. So the moment that you get scared or get out from fail, that encourage the team to do it because it cannot be worse than this. Either you close your call center contact center or you try this new digital era things. So it's good to try it. Otherwise, you will close. So no worse things that can be done. So fail of fairness or fair of fairness is not there. And working together with the teams is making the team as one unit. And I'm proud with the team that we have. See, I will tell you something. In the COVID-19, we work with National Information Center to develop the apps of Tawakkalna, which is an app that need to be done in 2 weeks with all the ecosystem support, hiring 600 people in 10 days, train them, educate them, and make them working to support that one in 10 days. It's not a very simple thing. We used to have 2 months to do this transition. We do it in 2 weeks and everybody working fine. And we are very happy with the biggest governors in the organization, in the government to thank us for that one. And still until now, it's working and become the contact center gateway for all digital transformations app that the government is doing right now.
Yeah, if you, Charles, I just want to add one more point here, and I will not take much time. But frankly speaking, in these big transformations, I believe one of the key elements or success factors in these transformations, basically the leadership team involvement. So having your leaders on top of this transformation is always something, and you will notice phenomenal results out of it. I was part of this transformation. Alhamdulillah, I'm proud of this transformation in our company. However, if you'll tell me what's make it different, why this time we succeeded in it, the involvement of a leadership team, the involvement of, let's say, even I can say it that our chairman was involved in this transformation, not only the senior people. So this will give the real motivation for everyone to work and success in this. This is, I just want to add on top of this because it is really phenomenal transformation.
To me, that's just for me, of this session, this has been really, for me, a high point, because actually what you've been just done is you've achieved something phenomenal and you've walked what you talked. Not many people do that. Not many people do that. So I'm not going to go into any more questions because I think this is a high point, and these are the thinking patterns that we need to take away and think about what this would mean to us. It's a fantastic story.